So I've called this 7 ways to boost testosterone naturally, as you know. And just in case some of you don't know who I am, I do have, like anyone in the health and wellness space, I do come with a story. I have found over the last, 8 years, I guess, since being in this space, that anyone who works in the holistic health space has their own story, or they've got several. And I'll tell you about that in a second. But since 2015, I've helped people reverse a lot of different illnesses, ranging from skin conditions to pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, arthritis and gout, migraines and brain fog, excessive body fat, low energy and fatigue, low testosterone in men, fibromyalgia, even symptoms of Parkinson's in one spectacular case. That was a total fluke, helping someone reverse type 2 diabetes holistically. And I do come with my own personal story. I had pretty bad eczema for about 30 years from a very, very young age. And I'd always wear these white gloves going to bed. I'd get teased at school. Some people grow out of eczema. I didn't. It got worse and worse. Got particularly bad during my exams when I was 16, 18, then at university, then during my masters, then when I was working. It just got worse and worse. And my treatments were moisturizing creams, which had nasty ingredients in them, antibiotics, which harm your gut microbiome, steroid creams, which have left me with pigmentation on my skin. And I didn't actually use immunosuppressants, but many people with eczema get prescribed immunosuppressants, meaning they suppress the immune system. So it used to be all over me. So that was my kind of story. And it wasn't actually until my father suffered a stroke that I started to go down a bit of a quest to figure out why he suffered this stroke. I had this inner knowing in my heart that his stroke was avoidable. And I kept on seeing this word called chronic inflammation everywhere. And I very quickly realized that this thing called chronic inflammation was the underlying cause of my illness, my eczema, his asthma he'd had since he was 12, which is a reversible condition, high blood pressure that ultimately led to his stroke, and also is the ultimate cause of almost every chronic illness around, and hormonal imbalance. So in 2012, I wrote a book called Mojo Multiply, Raise Testosterone Naturally. 2016, I wrote The Vitality Secret. And it was really a result of my father's stroke that sent me down, not sent me down the rabbit hole, that's not a very positive way of looking at it, but it's sent me on a quest, an investigation, and I just started obsessing about all things health and vitality, but really with a focus around chronic inflammation. So I've come to realize that there's really one underlying cause behind every illness, and that includes low testosterone in men. So number one of these 7 tips is to get to the cause. So I use the analogy of a symptoms tree, where you have causes creating a problem, which then create symptoms, depending on your genetic code. The cause can be anything toxic, but the problem we're really talking about here is chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation is really your immune system protecting you from foreign or alien intruders. It's a very healthy immune response. If we didn't have it, we would die. So we need to be grateful for it. But when it happens again and again and again and again and again, the body starts to create symptoms depending on your genetic code. It doesn't really matter what the name of the symptom is. All of them are just symptoms of an underlying cause. So for me, that was eczema, someone else asthma, someone else arthritis, IBS, depression, gout, psoriasis, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune conditions, heart disease, and the big one, cancer. Cancer starts with toxicity, which is also another word for chronic inflammation. So all of these conditions, all of these symptoms are what I guess the current industry, the medical industry, would call illnesses and diseases. But really, I see them as chronic symptoms of an underlying cause. And of course, that means hormonal imbalance as well, and low testosterone in men, and also hormonal imbalance in women as well. So chronic inflammation...
Isn't it also like a main cause of like most of the pain that we're experiencing? It's usually associated with inflammation as well.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. It's if someone has chronic pain, like fibromyalgia or chronic pain, that can absolutely be a result of inflammation. And one thing I didn't mention here, but it's kind of it here on this slide under trauma, inflammation can happen from a physical threat and or a perceived threat. So if we are stressed chronically, the body can get inflamed. And it's stress is really a code word for fear. And a lot of people are living on this kind of fight or flight, this moderate fight or flight state, where back in ancestral times, we'd be escaping a saber-toothed tiger and be on high alert. And the body does all of the things it needs to keep us safe during that time. And it drains the blood away from the gut into our extremities. We start pumping adrenaline and cortisol. We go into high alert. And it's amazing to get us out of trouble. But what happens in a day-to-day life in our kind of current Western world with hyper distraction is we tend to be living by the hormones of stress. And then that can create inflammation and any of these symptoms and pain. And when we store trauma and we store, which is also called trapped emotions, another word for trauma is trapped energy, electromagnetic energy. And if we're a walking, talking, breathing human, we've all got stored trauma, we've all got trapped emotions. So all of those things can lead to inflammation and pain, absolutely. I'll move on. Examples of toxins, food. I put food in quotation marks because probably about 80% of what's in supermarkets shouldn't be called food at all. And then there's trapped emotions, which I just talked about. Environment, that's a big one that I'll talk about in a second, but it's such a big topic with what we're discussing today. Environmental toxins, xenoestrogens, hormone disrupting chemicals, stress, I've just talked about. All of those things create that thing called inflammation, and it really is the underlying cause of all of these different conditions.
Neil, what do you think are the biggest villains as far as causing this? You mentioned environmental estrogens and that kind of stuff, BPAs and bottling, those kinds of things. But what do you think are the biggest the biggest causes of environmental things that contribute to inflammation?
Really good question, and I'm about to answer it in the next few slides. So hopefully I'll have answered that question in about 3 minutes. And if I don't, stop me again. So that's inflammation. The old way of doing health, looking after our health is we get some kind of symptom, some kind of illness, we go to the doctor, we take some drugs, but then we get more sick. And then we go back to the doctor to get more drugs. And it's not unusual to be in a whole cocktail of medications until the day we die. So the more drugs that we take, we start to wave goodbye to our vibrancy and our vitality. And then we're, of course, going to affect our levels of energy, our testosterone, hormones go out of balance. And it's not unusual for people to be yo-yo dieting for years, even decades, hormones going all over the place. And there could be over-exercising or excessive exercising. Believe it or not, too much cardio can actually drop testosterone. And then we'd count calories and choose low-fat diets. That's actually harmful to your brain and testosterone, going on low-fat diets. Other things might be you watch the news, worse still, you believe it, and then you allow it to cause stress and trigger the nocebo effect, which I'll address shortly. So the new way is you get a symptom. It might be low energy. It might be testosterone. It might be a skin challenge. You see it as a messenger. You then do a bit of reverse engineering, find out where it's coming from, and then you get rid of it or bring the body back to balance, and then you can live a life rich in vitality. That's the new way of doing things. Get to the cause, heal the body, be symptom-free. I'm not going to go through that slide because of time. All of these things can trigger inflammation. Toxins, stress, insulin resistance, that's excessive exposure to the hormone insulin, typically as a result of too many inflammatory products, but particularly sugar and high glycemic products, and fake foods, lack of physical activity or excessive exercise, insufficient micronutrients.
What's glycemic? Does that mean sugar?
Glycemic is the glycemic index is an index which measures your blood level response or your blood response to different food types. It was developed for people with diabetes, for pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, and every food type has a different glycemic index. And forms of sugar are at the highest level here. So that, by the way, doesn't have to just be refined sugar, like white sugar. It can be bread, white bread, brown bread, pastas. They all break down into sugar very, very quickly. So too much of that can lead to insulin resistance, and then when you're resistant to insulin, you're then type 2 diabetic, or first of all you're pre-diabetic, then you're type 2 diabetic, both of which can be completely reversed.
So bread breaks into sugar, which is bad, but it's also glucose, which is bad. Like any wheat product, beyond just the sugar, why is wheat inflammatory?
What? Great question. In America, so there's different arguments for this. So the main one is, in America, it's gone through a process called mutagenesis, where the wheat grain has been tampered with by man. Where there used to just be one protein, they've added about 14 different proteins to this wheat grain, so farmers can yield more in less time, which is amazing for the agricultural industry, and it gets food out to the masses quicker. But it's sadly very inflammatory for the gut. And to make matters worse, it's also covered in Roundup, or Roundup Ready wheat grains, or corn. There's also corn as well, which is Roundup Ready corn. But it's what it's covered in whilst it's growing that's also a problem. Which Roundup is a form of pesticide, and there's pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, insecticides, all of those things. Anything that ends in acids that's kind of sprayed on our crops is not a good thing. But gluten, particularly in America, is a challenge. One can actually go to Europe. They could go to Italy and they can have pasta or bread and they'll be absolutely fine. And then they go to America and they get bloated and put on weight easily. And they get some kind of symptom very quickly because they consume the wheat in America. So that's one of the main reasons why gluten, or wheat rather, is inflammatory. And you've also got the lectins and the phytates. And the argument with paleo living is you take out the grains because the grains can actually be inflammatory. So they're called nutrient thieves. They prevent the absorption of minerals into your gut. They can tear the gut lining. Not for everyone, but a lot of people can really benefit from going grain-free. But gluten, I would say, is one of the main staple culprits in our modern world, particularly in America.
It's funny, I was at dinner and my friends ordered like pita. And I'm like, I can't do that, you guys. And they're like, why? It's just pita. And I'm like, I've gone so long without eating bread that if I eat it, I will need to take a nap almost immediately. So like if I eat a burger with a bun, I'll get so tired.
So yeah, you have the inflammatory effect of the gluten, and then it spikes your insulin very quickly. And when you it spikes your blood sugar very quickly. And when you spike your blood sugar very quickly with fast carbs, insulin's job is to balance blood sugar. So your pancreas secretes insulin when you eat food, but particularly when you have high sugar meals. And it basically balances the blood sugar, but it extracts the excess blood sugar from your blood to prevent it from becoming toxic, and it then deposits it elsewhere. So you might get the happy high from the gluten or from the bread or from the pasta, whatever it is, but it's short-lived because after that you got the crash when insulin is then depositing it in different locations around the body, typically your liver cells or your fat cells or glycogen stores, or muscle glycogen stores. If you've just done a workout, it's arguable that it's not a bad time to actually spike your insulin a little bit because you can then top up your muscle glycogen stores. But for the most part, if people are sedentary or if one is prone to gaining body fat, it's the fat stores that get filled up from excessive exposure to the hormone insulin. So basically having too many carbs. And that can lead to energy crashes and insulin resistance and inflammation.
is sprouted grain? Because I've kind of been switched over to that. I was told that it's better. I don't know if it's ideal.
I'd say
But
it's I'd
is
say it's
what
I'd say it's better. It's like it's less. I'd say it's less inflammatory in your gut, and I believe it's lower on the glycemic index as well. I'd still I'd still favor not having them, but it's better. Like quinoa, I the moment I moved to LA in 2014, I stopped having wheat and I went to quinoa. But even quinoa is called a pseudo grain, but way less harmful. And I never felt any kind of reaction from it. So
Quinoa, sweet potatoes, rice, oats.
yeah, I mean oats are still grains, but I'll have oats very occasionally. Rice is yeah, a little bit of rice is not so bad. White, believe it or not, is better than brown because brown has a lot of arsenic in it. Can be more inflammatory. But yeah, the I would favor not having grains, but I know it's a lot for some people, and I'm not even I'm not 100% grain free myself. But if someone wants to get rapid results, I would favor sweet potatoes, butternut squash, yams.
are
That
you
kind of
dairy free too?
yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Except for
I still,
butter.
oh yeah, do have butter. Yeah, I have a bit of butter because
Yep.
it's basically pure fat and fat's fine. But for the most part, I haven't had milk for probably eight years or something. Very occasionally, I'll have some cheese. Goat's cheese I favour over normal cheese, but there's very very
And
seldom.
you do all the dairy like substitutes,
I don't tend
like
to
the
do the
almond.
substitutes really. Occasionally,
Because those are all
yeah,
soy.
yeah, exactly. A lot of them are soy. I mean,
Well, no, like
sometimes
the
I have like an
milks, like
almond.
the cashew cheese, and
Oh yeah,
the almond milk,
yes.
and then
So
the yogurts that are I
I
forget what they're
have,
made of.
yes, I have. I've had some of them. It's probably just not a regular part of my diet, but I have had all of those things. A lot of just like you said, the vegan cheeses are typically cashew. There's a bit of a joke, and on one of the what's it called on Abbot Kinney? I think it's called Plant Food and Wine. All of the ingredients are made from cashews. All of the different cheeses. But yeah, they're not bad. And the milks, very occasionally I'll have like a coconut milk or almond milk or cashew milk. The only thing is, most of the ones that you buy in supermarkets have all these different ingredients in them as well. And a friend of mine here actually makes nut butter, not butter, nut milk. And it's so easy. You put nuts in a blender with water and it takes like a minute. So if you can just have some good quality water and nuts, you can make your own nut milk. I would favour that over buying the stuff full of preservatives and stuff in the supermarkets.
And then one tricky thing that I find is sunflower oil. All the oils.
The oils,
Like,
yeah.
oh, sure, like here's a dairy free thing, but it's got canola oil. Like most Trader Joe's products are all made with canola oil. And then even a lot of like almond milks are filled with sunflower oil,
Hmm.
which tastes so good. But it's if it tastes so good, there's got to be something wrong.
Typically, yeah. It's
I was getting like weird, like tingling, like headachy kind of feel.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm not a fan of most vegetable oils. My go-to in my cupboard now, I have olive oil, I have avocado oil, and coconut oil. Those three I tend to stick to. I cook in coconut, and I have avocado and olive oil on my salads. But the closer we can get to purity in nature, the better. Some of these hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils, if you knew the process that they had to get through, you'd never touch that stuff. They have like a metal catalyst added to them so they're more stable at room temperature. Yeah,
And the slave labor.
and all the different flavors, yeah.
No, the slave labor.
Oh, sorry, the slave labor. Yeah, yeah. And that, definitely. So, point number 2 to increase testosterone is to just take out, toxin elimination. The reason we get inflammation and therefore a decrease in testosterone is because of toxins. So, from a dietary standpoint, this is one of my favorite quotes. If you don't recognize an ingredient, your body won't either. We've just talked about oils, canola oils, and the process that some of these oils go through. If you look on the back of packets in most, for example, breakfast cereals, it's horrendous. That stuff should not be given to children or adults. So if you don't recognize an ingredient, your body won't either. #inflammation. But toxins aren't just in the food supply. It can be in the environment. And it can also be our emotions. And it can be our thoughts, which I'll come to in a moment. But the real problem with toxins is this. Not breasts. They're not a problem. It's what's behind them. No, it's estrogen is a problem. Environmental estrogens, aka xenoestrogens. Obviously, breasts are not a problem when they're on women. On men, that seems to be an increasing challenge, which I'll come on to in a moment. But xenoestrogens is a real thing right now. So we need to be really mindful of this. And it really became evident to me in America, much more so than England, actually, because our food supply is a little cleaner than America. So I guess being exposed to it was quite helpful in a way. So this was from 2006 in the Daily Mail in the UK. 1/3 of male fish in rivers are changing sex. That's just a little bit weird, isn't it? Male fish are feminizing. And what they have found is residue or trace amounts of the female hormone estrogen in lakes and rivers. And it's causing male fish to feminize. You may think, who cares? I'm not a fish. But the thing is, we have an ecosystem and everything gets recycled all the time. And the reason, by the way, that the contraceptive pill can be in the water supply is because women take the contraceptive pill, they pass it in their urine, and it goes into the water filtration plants, but the water filtration plants can't extract it. So it ends up being recycled into the water that we drink.
And all pharmaceuticals, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
So if you drink tap water, even filtered tap water, you're drinking the world's peed out pharma.
Well, I would think like you're absorbing way more when you shower because your skin is one of the biggest organs. No, when you shower, because you don't.
Yeah, your skin is drinking.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
Brilliant point. Your skin is.
People don't have filters on their shower head. I've been using one for a while now because I found out about this.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Phoenix. Yeah, our skin is a semi-permeable membrane, and we do absorb what we put on our skin into our bloodstream. So that's a good point. So yeah, but the water supply is also a challenge. What we're drinking. So at the very least, we need to have a very good filtration system to remove the toxins. So it's one of the first things I normally get my clients onto here. So alligators are suffering too. I don't know if I can play this. Let's see. Can you hear this?
Strange things going on out in the environment in a minute. At the moment, and you'll see how this is relating to food in a few minutes' time. Alligators' penises are getting shorter, which is not particularly good news for the alligators. And there's a particular lake in the States called Lake Apopka in Florida, another lake next door to it called Lake Woodruff. And the alligators in Lake Apopka have got short penises, and the alligators in Lake Woodruff have got humongous, normal-sized alligator penises. And the female alligators, of course, come walking along and decide which lake to go to. And they also, I won't progress that thought process, and also the human sperm count is going down, which is pretty bad news. That's a bit dear to my heart and to a number of people out there's hearts too. Male trout are expressing this protein called vitellogenin, and vitellogenin, for those that don't know, is a female egg protein, so it's a bit weird. You wouldn't expect male trout to express the female egg protein. Girls are reaching puberty earlier, so the question is, what the hell's going on? The side effect is that men are being feminized, and that's a fact.
So that's happening.
Men are being feminized.
Yes. Because of
Yeah,
these
Joe Rogan
xenoestrogens, because
did
of
a
these.
whole. I think it came out like a day ago. They're saying it's a lot of it's from the plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like this woman did this whole big, huge study and found that it's like shrinking the taint. So like women that gave birth that had more of these, I forget the technical name for the plastic, but they had
Phthalates.
smaller taints and led. Sorry, go ahead.
It's something like phthalates, isn't it?
Yeah, phthalates. Yeah. So they studied like the size of the taint, and then like they noticed that the sperm count was 7 times lower in the boys that were exposed to the phthalates.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
why. Yeah, I wrote about this in Mojo Multiplier actually in
Well,
2012.
Was this a temporary effect, or was this I mean, how long lasting was the effect? Let's say that they took the plastics out of the equation. Did the males return to a normal sperm count?
I don't know if we have that data.
No, because they studied the men. So they studied the size. They had these men that volunteered. They gave them like $75 to measure the size of their taint, basically. And they found that the smaller the taint, the less sperm count that the men had. So I think it lasts, it doesn't go away. It's not something that goes back.
It's a permanent effect.
Yeah.
And Dr. Zach Bush did a brilliant podcast on the Luke Story podcast, which I listened to a few months ago. It was actually called Don't Fear the Virus, but for the first hour and 15, I think it was, he was talking about all of this, the environmental pollutants and what it's doing to hormones, how it's going to make us, if we don't change things quite soon, we're going to have an extinction challenge because everything's going in the wrong way. Like testosterone levels down, sperm counts down, women are becoming infertile. There's a lot of dangerous stuff that's happening in our food supply. GMO corn and wheat have been shown to skyrocket estrogen levels. And by the way, Bill Gates is using that for his food supply in his farms. Horrific. There's a brilliant documentary called GMO OMG. And I watched this about 10 years ago, and it really opened my mind up to the effects of GMO corn and soy, particularly in America. Like multiple tumors on the mice and rats, and estrogen up, testosterone down. So there's a lot happening with the food supply that we need to be aware of. Basically, because we're messing with the nature codes. And we can't do that and get away with it. It never works.
Vaccines.
Yeah, it's a big thing. The good news is we can, once we're mindful of this, it's actually not that difficult to stay clear of this stuff. It's just like, first we need to know about it. We need to be aware of it. So we just swerve it and pick better choices. So our sperm quality
What about BPAs and like plastic?
Exactly.
Like we're talking about plastics. So does everything inherently have BPAs in it unless it says BPA free?
Typically, most of the bottled drinks from supermarkets, we've got to be mindful of that stuff. I really don't like buying bottled water. And when I can, I'll get it in glass, but it's very difficult, particularly in Mexico. But yeah, most of the packaged bottles they release these BPAs.
So, you're in Mexico? Yeah, what do you do for water in Mexico?
Well, my system, I've got a new Kangen arriving soon, which I've missed. Kangen machine. I think we've talked about this before. It's the
ionized one, the electric one?
Yeah, it's amazing. This stuff's just amazing. So that's arriving again soon. But I've got a 4-part filter system here. There's a reservoir, and then there's 4 giant filters that it goes through. And it's been tested, and it's clean as far as I can see. But I want to have it. I want to ionize it, reduce molecular hydrogen, gets rid of inflammation super fast, and it has more antioxidants in one glass than you'd get probably in a whole day's worth of vegetables. So it's pretty powerful stuff. If you want more information on that, by the way, Teddy, you and I have talked about this before, haven't we? Because you've got one.
I have one. I haven't set it up. I'm a mess with my water. I get water delivered expensively, and then I have a reverse osmosis 4-stage on my sink. That doesn't have any minerals because it's being filtered so much. And then I have a $3,000 machine that my mom gave me like 10 years ago. That's an ionizer, but I'm intimidated by setting it up and having another thing on my kitchen counter. And I'm also, for me, it's been like, well, do I keep the 4-stage reverse osmosis filter and put that water into the ionizer, or is that overkill?
Yeah, maybe a conversation for another time. Yeah, as you've said, yeah, the reverse.
But for the most part, I've been drinking mineral water shipped directly from the earth.
Yeah,
which costs too much in the end. I mean, yeah, it costs a lot.
Yeah, I think I know the company that. Well, I know a few companies that deliver it. It's pretty expensive, but it's obviously good.
Well, it's
number 2
Mountain Valley Water, which now got bought out by Sparkets.
Oh, okay.
Which they changed a lot of stuff when they got bought out.
Okay.
But essentially, it was from a spring in San Diego.
Nice.
Anyway, my whole worry personally, and this is off topic, but just acidity.
Yeah.
Like if I eat meat and if I eat carbs and if I drink soda water and if I do coffee, am I just like staying acidic all day? I mean, the opposite of that would be minerals, right? The opposite of acidity is essentially minerals.
Alkaline.
Well, alkaline, yeah. So that's another reason why this Kangen or reduced molecular hydrogen water is really good, because it alkalizes the body. So even, yeah.
But couldn't you just use like baking soda if you wanted? Really
or lemon juice or apple cider vinegar?
Lemon juice is a really good one as well. I often accompany, or before my coffee, I'll have a hot water and lemon, or a normal temperature water with lemon to kind of attempt to counteract the acidic effect of coffee. But another coffee hack is having for a less acidic effect to have it on not to have it on an empty stomach, and also cold brew coffee. There's virtually no acidic effect to that, which is quite cool.
Virtually no acidic effect. Yeah, I used to be obsessed with cold brew.
Yeah,
but the funny thing is I would drink cold brew every day, and it would be like 6-to-1 ratio of a coffee. Like it'd be so strong, and I had knee problems for a year. And I would stretch, and I would get massages, and I would roll out my knee, and I couldn't figure out why the fuck my knee was hurting so bad. And then I realized it was the coffee.
Wow.
That was inflaming my joints, I guess.
That's nuts. I mean, that's
Isn't that crazy?
That's a pretty acute reaction, and well done for figuring it out.
It took me a fucking year to figure it out. It took me a year.
Well, you did it.
It drove me crazy. I was getting physical therapy. I'm like, why the fuck is my knee fucked up? I couldn't drive without it hurting.
Damn. I better move on to get my slides finished in time with the hour. So I think you've got the idea. Testosterone is down. We have lower testosterone in places than our fathers did. A lot of people are resorting to testosterone replacement therapy, which is a synthetic drug, which is giving your body testosterone. But as soon as you do that, it sends a message to your body to say, or brain to say, stop producing testosterone. I've got enough. And then when people come off it because of all the side effects and the rage that they get from it, their energy levels crash. Another reason why I just love the idea of doing it naturally. There is the argument that our testosterone drops after 35-ish, age 35, but we can do something about it. We don't have to be a conventional norm. So this is a real thing, gynecomastia, which is the 4th most popular surgery carried out on men now. That was from 2013, but it was the 4th most popular surgery, which is breast reduction in men.
Breast reduction. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, this shit's real.
I have big breasts.
I don't think you do. If you do, you're hiding them well.
Well, I have a big chest, which will turn into a big breast when I'm older. I feel like
Just
I just gotta keep working out.
just avoid the estrogen, and you should be fine.
Just don't eat soy.
Don't eat soy. Don't eat
Don't eat
corn.
plastic water bottles.
Don't eat plastic. Don't take the female contraceptive pill. I know you'd be tempted. It's not a good idea. So,
Is estrogen the opposite of testosterone?
I wouldn't say it's the opposite, but it's the dominant female hormone. So, testosterone is the dominant male hormone, but we both men and women have both hormones. It's just for women, the dominant is estrogen. For men, the dominant is testosterone. But we need estrogen. They need testosterone.
Like if I were to work out like a beast and, have strong testosterone because of that, could I still eat soy and drink plastic water bottles because my testosterone's so high it wouldn't affect me as much?
That's a very good question. I think there's argument to say there's only so much exercise will do. You could be lifting weights, which is amazing for building testosterone, by the way. But there's a saying that says you can't out-exercise a bad diet. So you could be super active, working out super hard, but if you're consuming stuff that can create an inflammatory response, whilst your body might be more forgiving, it's not going to be optimal.
It's interesting. When I exercise, I feel like I can drink soda water is my vice in the sense
really?
that it's acidic. But if I don't exercise and drink soda water, I feel like shit. But if I exercise, I feel like I'm able to drink more soda water. Like,
it could be a mental thing.
Does exercising increase alkalinity in a way? Or maybe it's just some kind of resilience.
It could be a mental thing. It could be a resilience thing. You're getting more oxygen in your body, which is going to alkalize you as well. So there's probably a few things going on there because you feel more resilient. The more oxygen there is, the more active we are, the more resilient we get typically.
Oh, more oxygen. No, Wim Hof. No, you're good.
Exactly. I better move on because we're approaching.
Yeah, sorry, I'm hijacking.
All good. So we need to eliminate xenoestrogens. Figure out where they all are. I can help you. If you like my support with this, by the way, one-on-one support or group coaching, I've got some cool stuff coming up. There's all sorts of different ways that we get these hormones in our food supply, some of which we've just covered. Number 4 rather, is to feed your 50 trillion mini-me's. We are made up of 50 trillion cells, and every single one of those cells acts like a biological mini-me compared to the human body. So a cell has every biological process we have. When we think about what needs to fuel us, that's how we need to fuel our cells. So our cells require 4 basic fuels. The first one is oxygen. The second one is water, clean water, the purest of water money can buy, preferably molecular hydrogen, preferably structured. 3 is nutrients, eating food as nature intended, not being tampered with, not covered in all the hormones of pesticides and all of the things that end in acids, preferably organic whenever you can. If you can't go organic because of whatever reason, price or not able to obtain it, it is better to have vegetables that aren't organic than to have no vegetables at all.
Is structured water like a real... I wanted to catch you before you moved on, because you mentioned structured water.
Yeah.
I guess it just seems really gimmicky to me. I don't know if there's ever been like actual study on...
Are you familiar with Dr. Emoto?
Yeah, we had this talk.
Oh, we did. Of course we did, yeah.
I think that was us.
Yeah, so there is science behind it. And he's not the only one who's done these experiments. There's a documentary
I
called...
understand like the thoughts and
Yeah.
To me that makes more sense, but I guess these really expensive units that just kind of spin water, that just seems gimmicky to me. I don't know if that's...
Yeah.
Have they tested?
I guess the only way to trust them is to see their tests and see the validity of the test that they use. I've got a device called the Somavedic, which protects protects the home from electromagnetic frequencies, which is a big one for guys because we got the phone sometimes in our pockets, which is definitely a no-go. This device called the Somavedic not only harmonizes the radiation in the home, but it actually structures water. So you can put your water next to this device and it structures it within about 10 minutes.
I haven't heard of this one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Somavedic. I can send a link after this if you like in the metal group. Could grab it for you right now, actually. It'll take me 2 seconds.
Yeah, if you want to just drop it in the chat, I can. Yeah, I'm fascinated with water. We were talking about the blue bottle. I think that was you on the same line with me and Mark. No, it actually wasn't you. I got into this talk last Saturday with Mark. And
Arnaud, you and I, Phoenix, were talking about. I thought it was really interesting. And I've been looking at that medical paper for how water takes structure based on the vibrations it gets, or even like you were saying, emotions. It's interesting stuff.
Yeah, well, apparently Neil has because the thing I thought that I was bringing up was it was more like a filtered device where the water passes through it, and then it spins it in a certain way that's supposed to restructure the water. But apparently there's a different kind of device here.
This is one that I've got. I saw these guys talk in the London biohacking event a few years ago, Somavedic, and they originally created this device to protect people in geopathic zones. Can you see my screen, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the device. So I've got an interview here, and this was originally created to protect people in geopathic zones, which is where there were underground rivers and over tectonic plates where there's natural radiation happening. And this device was originally designed to protect those areas. And then I think it was in 2011 they realized that it also helped people to be protected from electromagnetic fields and radiation. So it's a cool. If you want to listen to that interview, I'll share the link right now in the Zoom. But it's a really good device. I have one, and if you use Vitality, by the way, you can get 10% off. It's my code. So let's move on.
Yeah, I'm afraid of EMFs. I'm a smart home kind of guy, so I'm literally surrounded by Wi-Fi devices.
Yeah, EMFs are a real thing. They've known about the electromagnetic effects of radiation since the 40s, and the DIA, when it was around, the Defense Intelligence Agency launched a report. I've got it on my site. I think it was in 1972, talking about the biological effects of electromagnetic radiation. And there's also a book called The Invisible Rainbow, written by a guy called Arthur Furstenberg, who was cited, and the comments, by the way, and the reviews of this site are brilliant. They're all by PhDs, very qualified people. Preceding every pandemic in history, preceding every pandemic going back 220 years was an increase in electromagnetic radiation. So we have a few things going on at once at the moment. We have immunosuppression and we have a virus. A lot of people suffer when they shouldn't be suffering from a virus. Most people just bat it very easily. A lot of people aren't. And I think one of the reasons for this is because of electromagnetic exposure. We've just gone from 4G to 5G, which is a massive increase in frequency. And anyone who says that's not a thing or it's a conspiracy theory, they just don't understand. They don't understand. We are the body electric. I have, by the way, my own immune system crashed in 2017, which is why I got onto this subject. And I couldn't shake off a cold. It was a very minor cold. It was just annoying though. And I went to go and see a kinesiologist, and he tested me, and he said within about 10-15 minutes that 3 teeth on the side of my mouth where I used to hold my phone had become depolarized. And he said, and I had no idea what he meant because it was new to me back then. he said, your teeth act like circuit breakers. And since I've really read it. Oh, I did not mean to do that. I just hit my other keyboard. Since I've got the book called The Body Electric, Healing is Voltage, which is about the body electric. And Dr. Jerry Tennant confirms the same thing. Our teeth act like circuit breakers, and every other circuit in the body, or every electrical circuit in the body, is wired, if you like, through the teeth. So we have different organs on different circuits. And again, each of those circuits acts independently, although they borrow charge off each other. They're wired up like Tesla circuits, apparently. So our teeth act like circuit breakers. Our cells are net negatively charged. To be specific, between minus 20 and minus 25 millivolts to have healthy cells throughout the body, which make up every muscle, bone, tissue, every part of the body. And what happened with my teeth is the polarity had flipped from a net negative charge to a positive charge. And he could measure this. And he said my circuit attached to my immune system was down. It was compromised. And the treatment had nothing to do with food or exercise, because I was already exercising every day. I was in LA. I was drinking vegetable juices every day. I was paleo. There was no reason for me to be sick. And he shone some lasers on my teeth to flip the polarity back. And then within a day or two, my cold went away. Can you imagine how many people these days have autoimmune conditions, like serious autoimmune conditions, various forms of cancer, having no idea about the impact of their teeth and their cell phones on their electrical systems? And from a body electric standpoint, we know that a characteristic of any illness is low voltage to an organ. It's not because of a pharmaceutical drug deficiency. It's because there's low voltage. There's not enough power getting to an organ. And then with a bit of reverse engineering, by the way, I used to be an electrician, so when I learned about this, it kind of clicked very quickly. But if a circuit goes down, there's always a reason for a circuit to go down. It just doesn't happen for no reason. So if someone gets type 1 diabetes when the pancreas stops firing during life, that's an autoimmune condition as a result of leaky gut, as a result of not enough power going to the pancreas. Anyway, that's going a bit more.
If my feet are always cold, is that an electricity problem or is it a blood flow problem?
It could be a blood flow thing. More than likely a blood flow thing. I mean, everything's an electricity challenge if it's not balanced. So it could be a blood flow thing. That's quite a common thing, but it might be worth having, getting checked out. In interest of time, I better move forward because it's 5 to the hour. So the fourth fuel, I've put fuel in quotation marks here, is our body needs to be able to eliminate waste. And if waste builds up, we reach a crescendo, or we reach like a climax, like a tipping point, and then we get sick. So if the body's highly full of toxins and waste isn't allowed to get rid of it, the body's not able to get rid of it, we reach this point where the body's so toxic that it has to get sick to clear itself out. That's often what sickness is. It's the body literally detoxifying. And of course, if one is chronically inflamed, they are then way more susceptible to the likes of bugs and viruses. And, chronic inflammation suppresses the immune system, or rather compromises the immune system. And inflammation means an overactive immune system, but it's compromised in its ability to function in keeping us safe from external insults onto the body. So number 5, I've covered so much information there. Number 5 is optimized sleep. I don't need to speak too much about that. We have a world-renowned sleep doctor in our group. He's amazing. I interviewed Michael Bruce recently on my podcast. We talked about testosterone. We talked about inflammation. The more regular we can get with our sleep, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, that's going to be better for inflammation down and raising our testosterone. Sleep's really important. High quality, preferably not caffeinated, preferably not alcohol during sleep. So there's different hacks. He's got different hacks, by the way, of when to have caffeine, when to have alcohol. Number 6 is de-stress, and I said flip the nocebo. The nocebo is the opposite of the placebo. The placebo effect, which is very real and scientifically proven, helps us to heal through thought alone, basically through belief. We can heal our bodies. That's what happens when we we take a pill and we believe that pill's going to heal us, we then, through the sheer power of thought, through the sheer power of belief, secrete this perfect concoction of chemicals in the body to heal ourselves. That's how powerful the placebo effect is. So a thought we have triggers an emotion, which triggers a cascade of chemicals and hormones. And where the placebo effect is initiated and effective, we have literally commanded the perfect concoction of chemicals to heal the body. On the flip side of that, we have the nocebo effect. If we believe something negative, or if we're constantly exposed to negative information, we can actually suppress our immune system, and we start to live by the hormones of stress. I actually first discovered the nocebo effect when I was researching cancer in 2015, and I heard that it is so powerful that if one receives some information like one has X months to live, and one believes that information, that's enough for the mind and body connection to trigger, and the mind can shut down the body whether the body is sick or not. That's a really extreme example. In a more everyday example, if one is exposed to information which is negative, constant barrage of negative information, namely the mainstream media, and it's arguable what information they're putting out there. I'd say it's very inaccurate right now and has been for the most part. Since I've been in health and wellness, I've not seen anything useful in mainstream media when it comes to health, when it comes to disease. It's all of it is steered towards pharmaceuticals, chemo, radiosurgery, and most forms of natural treatment are either suppressed or not spoken about. So I've put in that meme, smells like bullshit, oh, it's the mainstream media. One way of not subjecting ourselves to the nocebo effect is to really limit exposure to negative information, particularly when it's not even true. I just realised I'm missing an actual slide there, and there's meant to be one that talked about the phone in your pocket, and move the phone away from the pocket. Protect your gentleman vegetables from your phone, or get some kind of protective device. On the same website, by the way, there's on my website there's a device called Omnia, which can protect your phone from electromagnetic radiation, and it can also harmonize, believe it or not, so you therefore don't get injured by the cell phone. And it apparently can structure water. He's actually done some experiments to structure the water with a device on your phone. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, the Namia?
Omnia is actually on my website as well. Let me find it.
What's your website?
It's vitalitysecret.com. And if you go to /EMFs, it's got Omnia there. Tim Sanders, who's the CEO of Omnia, I met him at a 5G event, and he just blew my mind with all of the information that he had. On this website, I'm about to share with you the URL. There's videos of what happens to our blood when exposed to cell phone radiation and smart meters. Do you have smart meters in America? If you've got 2 seconds, I'll share one video with you. This one is really an eye-opener. And there's one on cell phone radiation.
1 foot in front of the smart meter. And in every single case, the human energy field was obliterated as they stood in front of the smart meter. So in our first slides, what we see is normal cells, and the structure of the cells is intact and sound. Sample 1, you can see a lot of degradation in the cells. The cell walls have been broken, and you see changes in the cells, which are called mycoplasma. It shows a mutation to the cell. In the second sample, we see a different type of degradation to the cell membranes. You can see a corrugation here. This is called bottle cap formation, and it's known that this occurs due to oxidation or exposure to free radicals. So this third subject, when we did her sample, she had to be pulled away from the meter after 45 seconds because she complained about an increasingly severe headache. And here you see a phenomenon called rouleau, where the red blood cells are stacking up.
Sorry, I couldn't get rid of those overlays then. So that's the thing. And let me share this with you. This is more relevant to this talk about sperm counts. Can you see my screen?
Cancer is not the main concern that I have. I'm really concerned about sperm count and about effects on pregnancy. How many of you know that 1 in 6 American couples is unable to have a child when they want to? How many of you know that last year, the birth rate in this country dropped the most that it ever has in recent history, 3% in a single year?
People look at the sperm in people use cell phones, and the sperm, usually sperm swim, and they swim straight. But if you expose them to radio frequency, mobile phone waves, they swim in circle.
Studies have been done here in Australia, taking sperm from healthy men. And one test tube gets exposed to cell phone radiation, and one test tube is not exposed to mobile phone radiation. And then the results are evaluated. And this is a measure of vitality. We measure how well the sperm swim. This is a measure of motility. This is a measure of mitochondrial DNA damage. They have 3 times as much damage on their DNA if they have been exposed to mobile phone radiation. The data on that are rock solid. Cell phones can damage sperm quantity and quality.
Your embryo, your uterus in the fetus, where your child is developing for the first 100 days, in the ovaries, the eggs do not have that protection. So they are at maximum risk from radiation. And for the first month or so, you wouldn't even know you were pregnant. You wouldn't.
So, it's real. So it's good to get protection. Particularly now, when we've just gone from 4G to 5G. There is argument to say that we can ascend these frequencies. And, a lot of us have been fine with 4G. Some people can't be around Wi-Fi, and they'll get headaches. We do adjust, but to go through this leap from 4G to 5G and talking about sperm counts and testosterone, it's really worth not keeping these by your balls. So, or get some kind of protective device.
So, correct me if I'm wrong though. Like, if you have it on airplane mode, that means it's not.
Yes, it's infinitely better. And when mine's in my pocket, it's in airplane mode all the time. I do have a protective device on it as well, but it's airplane still emits a tiny amount of radiation, but it's minimal. There's also a company called Get Lambs, or Lambs, rather. Lambs. These are a biohacker's favorite now. In fact, they're on my website as well.
I was going to start a company that competes with them.
I was thinking about it as well. Just start selling boxer shorts. I've got some.
I want to do something that Lambs isn't doing and sell, I want to be the Gap for Faraday clothing, basically. So silver or nickel woven or steel even woven clothing, at least with the pockets woven.
That's a good idea. Just the pockets. It doesn't have to be everything, does it?
Yeah. So it's just I every pair of jeans that I wear, I might as well wear a 5G protected pair of jeans.
That's a great idea. Love it.
I
I
spent 6 months doing the patent research, and I created a whole brand called Guardian Wellness, which I'm still passionate about. It's GuardianThreads.com would be the clothing company, and then Wellness would be just a lifestyle brand of protection. Guardian.
Love it. That's an awesome idea. When I was interviewing,
it's not doing much, so if you wanna do something with it, Neil, we can work on it together.
I was going to call them something like Vitality Pants or something.
These would be Guardian Threads. They guard you.
No, Guardian. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, nice. So that's the end of my presentation. Hope you found that useful. I am actually launching a brand new program on Monday week, called the Vital Man Code, an 8-week group coaching. I want to be doing less one-on-one now and doing more group. But it starts on the 3rd of May, and it's 8 pillars of vitality over 8 weeks. It's the same protocol that I follow with my private clients, but one to many, if any of you are interested in that.